Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to DevTalks. This is Aadi. Today is an interesting episode because we're going to talk about what is China hiding. There are a lot that the Chinese have actually put behind their great firewall that a lot of people can't access. Or at least that's what the world thinks. And that's another narrative that the Chinese would like us to believe that we don't know what's actually happening inside China. That's because that's the way they want it to be. To discuss this entire game and their biggest weakness that actually hides inside China, I have with me Lieutenant Commander Sudhir Kandhari. Sir, thank you so much. And he is a retired naval officer, of course, and also a sailor. After that, he's got a specialization in hydrography and a master mariner captain on refrigerated cargo vessels, and he's also done in sub-area projects in oil and the gas industry, which is actually much in focus today. Welcome to the show, sir, for the first time, and looking forward for many more interactions and learning from you. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Adi, for calling me on your show. And good evening to my all friends and your viewers. So we take off from here. So basically, today we're going to speak about China and their current position in the world politics. Time and again, we've been told that China is on its path to global domination. A lot of political scientists, commentators make this argument by citing the fact that China has cheap labor and primarily a manufacturing economy, which makes them quite literally, to say, world's factory. Their ability to supply cheap clothing, electronic goods, machinery, that's what gives them competitive advantage over others. However, truth be told, a country like China that solely relies on being an industrial economy can only make limited progress. I think everybody will be surprised to know that. In my humble opinion, I won't say humble. It's my strong belief China's strong hold on geopolitical stage is soon going to crumble. China is facing a whole lot of major issues internally, which they have been trying to mask by painting a false picture, as Adi said short while ago. And as we know, the Latvian media, sorry to use that word, I don't want to get political over here, a certain group of journalists, they tend to give you a very, very rosy picture of China, and they advise us that we should follow China's model for our country's development and progress. But on the contrary, I would tell those Chinese sympathizers, they are just glorifying China's success story. But the fact of the matter is, post-COVID era, China is growing less confident and even weaker internally due to sharp increase in public dissatisfaction. Rapid population growth, especially of the middle class, has left China and the CCP severely ill-equipped to handle the needs and aspirations of an average citizen. Most people like to focus on the economic and military strength of China. But I would personally like to take a deeper dive. Just think about it. Lack of food self-sufficiency, where it can lead to. And that's the problem China is having. Not now. Historically, they have had food shortage problem. And the inability to feed its people does. Now, you can well imagine if people go against China because of food, what's it going to be like? China is the most populated country. We are not shorter than them. Maybe very soon we'll catch up with them. I just want to see my slides here.
Yes, I'll just put it across. There we go.
Yeah. Can you move ahead? I'm not able to. Yeah. China is the most populated country with approximately 1.43 billion people to feed, but is geographically at a disadvantage because they have never been well endowed with natural resources like fertile or arable land or even clean water to amp up their domestic production of food. As a result of that, China has resorted to two main things. Their over-reliance imports to keep food inventory well stocked. Please keep in mind, reliance on imports to keep their food inventory well stocked. Second point is foreign investments in animal husbandry, forestry, and farming in third world countries. Can you go to fourth or fifth slide? Eddie, just scroll down. I'll tell you when to stop. Yeah. Now look at the imports jump of China. This data I have taken from Bloomberg, peaking in somewhere in September, August, September 21, and going up to 3,500,000 tons. Can we go further? Now, this is China's direct overseas investment in agriculture, forestry, and fishing. The data available is from USD up to 2016. And as we know that nothing comes out of China much. And we won't get the right figures, but whatever figures we have here, I'm very sure the figures will be much higher and will be increasing by the day. Now, can we go further to see further down? Yeah. You see the examples of Chinese overseas agriculture investments. Palm oil, olive oil, rapeseed, sunflower seed oil, soybeans, dairy, beef. Next slide. Pork, corn, atlafa, cassava, sugar. They're literally importing everything from outside. They have nothing of their own, if you really ask me. Yeah, we'll go further and we'll see how it is that. Now, China's food imports have been going all-time high. They're managed as a one-stop. They've emerged as one of the top soya exporters. Can we go up? Or further up? Further up? Further up? Yeah, next one. Now look at this. China buys 60% of all soybeans traded internationally. And local consumption in China is as large as the entire US harvest. And the country has to import 85% of its needs. And mind you, China has emerged as one of the top wheat buyers in recent years. I'm not saying that this all data I've taken from verified that from authentic sources. Russia was the biggest wheat supplier to China and is for that matter, and that's why the bonhomie between the two. But that's just a marriage of convenience. It won't last long. Even Russia won't like to have a strong neighbor next door for that matter. China is not supporting Russia openly, but we're giving you support, but refusing to give them any weapons or otherwise for that matter. The support is very limited from China, and Russia is also keeping quiet. So it's sort of a thing, both of them know that they can't trust each other. Now, coming to the next part of it, they're now the biggest importer of rice. Can I go ahead, please? They're the biggest importer of rice. And in the last 2 years, India's export to China of rice has gone up exponentially. India is exporting rice to China. Now, for a long time, China didn't buy corn overseas. But now they've become the biggest importer of corn. What's the reason for that? They have to keep their inventory to the scale which meets the feeding requirement to feed their own countrymen. They're falling short on something else, but they are keeping one inventory up. And then they need corn to feed the pigs for pig farming. That is their staple diet. And as we'll go further, we'll see that China was the biggest importer of pork once upon a time, and for the last 2 years, that import has come down by 5%. That is because they started their own pig farming. But how do they maintain the balance? Do they take the corn and what we call soya and give it to the pigs, or feed their own people? Now, moving on further. Next slide. Can we go to the next slide? Next. Yeah. China is importing record amount of beef and is also paying a record price per pound on the import. That is, they're buying at premium. Please remember that. They're buying at premium. When they buy at premium, the cost is to be borne by the end consumer. Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, New Zealand, Australia, the top 5 suppliers of fresh and frozen beef of China accounted for 86.9%. 1.6 million tons of the total imports in 2023 for beef alone. That is the state of affairs in China. And China's demand is not decreasing for them, it's increasing faster than their domestic production. So they'll keep importing. And if you look at it in just in the last 18 months, or rather I will touch upon a different topic before that. Now, what is happening simultaneously is China also has a protectionist attitude. Keep everything under the wraps. But this attitude has gotten them to impose restrictions and tariffs on imports. And in doing so, exorbitant costs to import these food products are eventually being borne by the end consumer. And in the last 18 months or so, we have seen stories emerge of how there has been mounting unrest and protests in China because people have been left with little to no food supplies due to lockdowns imposed, and this has costed the government money and also led to a great deal of distrust between the citizens and the CCP. Like what Z, if you look at it, what Z promised them, he said, "You give me a loyalty to the CCP, that is CCP, and I will take care of you. I look after you." अभी उसको खाना तो दे नहीं रहा है तो वो लॉयल्टी मांग रहा है. That is not possible. And China is trying to encourage its citizens to grow and produce food locally, while their reliance on imports keeps increasing. So you can see there's a clear contrast in the image they are painting to the citizens, telling them to grow, but keep increasing the imports also. But the requirement is increasing by the day. And on the other side, they're scrambling to tackle the issue of food insecurity, which they're not talking about at all in their media, in South Morning China Post, or what you call this, China Daily, whatever the newspaper they have. And now, can we just go back slightly, more back? Sorry, next one. Yeah. Now we can also see how China is showing interest in South America, Africa, and is currently eyeing Afghanistan and Arunachal Pradesh to fulfill their agriculture needs and inventory. South America, we have seen what all they're exporting. Sorry, what they're importing from South America. Even to I just mentioned pork and beef. There's a big import of chicken and chicken wings from Brazil for that matter. Now, why they're interested in Afghanistan? People talk of mineral resources and all that. No, one has to understand that for mineral resources, geological survey will take 4 to 5 years. Then they have to see whether it is economically viable to extract from that particular location or not. Like the resources will be in the survey, will be shown everywhere, but then they have to see economically is it viable to drill at that particular place to extract the mineral resources they're looking for. So that process is for good 10, 15 to 20 years. So you can forget about Afghanistan. Anything can happen in 5 years or 10 years for that matter. And Pathans won't let them stay for that long. Their main interest is the arable land over there, agriculture. Afghanistan was a prosperous country before Soviets and the Yanks came to Afghanistan. They used to export stuff. They had their own agriculture and they were self-sufficient in agriculture. In 70s, when they had Afghan Airlines and they had a Western culture. Now, after the Soviets came, that complete thing got washed off and they got into the poppy seed growing business. Excuse me. And when the Yanks came, they destroyed all their poppy fields, thinking that they'll bring them to the normal vertical agriculture economy. But they had got used to the easy money from poppy seeds. So they turned a blind eye. To the extent one BBC reporter was taken by armed police to show them the poppy fields. So during the American occupation over there. Now, connect the dots over here. Argentina produces 85% of the world opium. South America, all the drug cartels are there. China wants to come to Afghanistan. I would say Americans left a trap for them and they're walking into a trap, or rather, I would say they didn't have any option. They don't have any option but to walk into that trap now. They'll come to Afghanistan for agriculture, for the need of their own people, but they're not going to do it with your poppy seed, what we call growth. That money will be used for the nefarious designs by using our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, the pirate army chief. PAK. Can we move ahead from here? Well, as I spoke about Arunachal also, but as a matter of fact, they invaded Tibet also for the same reason, for agriculture. But Tibet had enough agriculture for their own needs. The livestock farming and the vertical agriculture that was to meet their own requirements. And recently, we heard that news that Mr. Z had a virtual meeting with his troops at the Ladakh border and asking them, "Are you getting fresh vegetables and enough food?" Why would he be asking that question to the soldiers? The reason being, like, if you ask me as a captain of the ship in the merchant navy, like when I go for a round and I ask, well, "Are you happy with the food?" Like, that kind of a thing. He's asking that for the domestic consumption back home for the elderly people because of one-child policy. There's a resentment, no food in their country, and he's proving to the vertical people that he's looking after the PLA. Will any troop ever say, "No, I'm not getting fresh vegetables"? And for all you know, this fresh vegetables and food mostly coming from Tibet, and nothing being left for Tibetans or for rest of China for that matter. That's why they're importing so much of food. Now, China. Can we go to the next slide? The water crisis. China has got a major water problem. You can see it on the slide. The 2018 report from the China's Ministry of Ecology and Environment, whatever figures are stated here are untrue, I would say that. They are not the true figures. We all know that 70% of the Chinese rivers in China are polluted heavily. Pollution with industrial waste, which contains all heavy metals. Unfit for human consumption, unfit for agriculture because that's ruining the agricultural land. The soil is getting bad. As such, they have only 11% of the world's vertical land mass to cultivate. They've made a concrete jungle and they've become a manufacturing economy and, trying to tell the world that you can't survive without us. अरे क्या तुम सर्वाइव कर लोगे बिना बाहर की हेल्प से? खाना नहीं है तुम्हारे पास and you're talking of your. In any case, now even the slightly deviating from the main topic, even the microchips are moving away from the big industries are on the way out. So what they're left with? They have to change their ways. Maybe that's the reason that Z is coming down is what you call stature a little bit now. At Davos recently, the vice premier made a statement. Read in between the lines and catch on to that statement. We are ready to re-engage with the rest of the world for trade. Were you disengaged till now? What's happening? Like, hold it there. Were you disengaged that you want to re-engage? Or is trying to give a diplomatic answer, what you call a message, that we are easing our stance, we won't be bullying you anymore. Now, another water problem they have is, I'll give an example for that matter. Three Gorges Dam, capable of producing 22,000 megawatts, if I'm not wrong, of electricity. The scientists and engineers in China, as well as all over the world over, they've admitted that this was a bad project. Scientifically and by engineering design, this should have never been made. The problems encountered are the very first year they had 80 cracks in various walls here.
Yeah.
And China, as usual, cover up. No, nothing is wrong. We rectified. There were minor faults and we're done. Everything is okay, fine. To make that dam, they had to deforest the entire area. Now, look at the environmental science over here. When you block a passage of water, there will be siltation on one side, that is the upstream, and there will be erosion downstream. You have done deforestation already. Erosion is taking place. There will be landslides.
Big time.
The city of Shanghai is basically standing on siltation, what you call base. So if it doesn't receive any more siltation, I don't have the data with me to say when that city might sink also. Because there's no more siltation coming because of this dam. Land is getting eroded. The other side, the siltation is taking place. There was a news that due to this landslide, when the mountain debris fell into the river, 7 people died and some 300 homes were washed away. And above, on top of everything, this dam is situated on the 3 major fault lines. And there's a report that there had been increase in earthquakes after this dam was built. I'll talk about one more interesting point. We have spoken about the meat products coming from outside. Do you know what happened during COVID? That will really tell you the problem that China is facing actually. There was no food in the country because of strict COVID restrictions. Vessels are waiting at anchor or at berth. Containers, what you call refrigerated containers, are kept on the jetty, on the berth. There are no plug points. No plug points are occupied. The reason being, they were so fearful of this particular problem, the virus. The policy was they wanted 3 consecutive negative tests over a period of 1 week before they clear the container outward. And I'll come to the cost part of it. Their problem was what? If they find what you call virus at the discharging point where it is unloaded, they can contain the virus there. But from there, if it goes to the quayside warehouse, from there to the wholesaler by a road transport or rail transport or inland waterways, whatever they might be having, then to the wholesaler, then to the retailer, they won't know where to check from where the what you call the chain of COVID reaction started, this virus reaction started, virus infection started. Sorry. That was making turning 7 free containers usually takes 3 to 4 or 5 days. You can say for China 7 days. Free container time, that is clearing customs, immigration, and everything. It went up to 14 days. 7 days delay. Another interesting incident happened that time in 2021. Chinese are very fond of, exchanging gifts on Lunar New Year. That is, they exchange fruits and all the fruit, what you call a basket of fruits they exchange. Cherries was airlifted from Santiago in Chile. And rumor went in the air that packaging has got the SARS-CoV-2 stain infected with that. The prices just dropped. That Chilean company, I've forgotten the name, had to spend millions of dollars on PR just to say that this is a rumor, not fact. Otherwise, cargo worth $400 million would have gone down the drain. They would have to destroy the entire cargo. Nobody wanted to buy it. And you can gauge the amount of food they're importing. I'm not going to the details of, technical details, how this vertical cold chain is run. It will become a too lengthy of the program, and plus that's not the subject today. The cold chain part of it, what I was coming to was, So these ships, when the things are getting delayed, there's a saying there's a clause used in the shipping: once on damage, always on a damage. If you haven't taken the cargo beyond a certain date, then the damage starts. That damage alone was turning out to be 30,000 yuan. That comes to approximately 5,000 or 4,800 USD per day per container. You say 30 to 40 vertical tons per container. And the amount they're importing, imagine the way they had to pay extra cost, and that cost was transferred to the end user, the ordinary citizen. That's how they operate. That's their way of working, and their policies are. In Beijing, Aadi, there are more than 30,000 what you call cold chain functionaries and more than 3,000 cold chain operators in Beijing alone. You can think for the rest of the country. How much they're dependent on the outside world for the food. And these, what I'm talking about, the food part of it, well, frozen meat can have a more time, expiry time, but a breathing, what we call product like vegetables or fruits, they would have limited shelf life.
Yeah.
beyond a certain vertical time, whatever you might do by controlling the environment, by injecting nitrogen or controlling the oxygen, by putting the cargo in coma, whatever you might do, after a certain time it will start ripening, and once the ripening process starts, the next is the rot. And that was happening in China during COVID times. Now I just now with these limited resources, how the trade-off can be done? Hypothetically speaking, they wish to increase the domestic pork production, but they would still need soya imports to feed the pigs. It's a vicious cycle now for them. Now this brings us to the normal next question. Who is China trying to fool? Can we go to the next slide thereafter? Let's keep it away for a while. Now, who is China trying to fool? Being over ambitious to govern the entire globe? Food insecurity will drive the average citizens to the street and create great civil unrest. Zipping and CCP popularity is anyway dipping here. We are reading that news. We all know that it's dipping. Like he's fighting for his own survival there. The only problem is that, he's a slightly off balance at the moment, and a man is under too much of stress. He might do some badmashi with us. Taiwan, he can't take a chance in any case. That we have discussed a lot with General Narayan sir and General Shankar sir for that matter. All I would say is that, China has to change its ways, mend its ways. Otherwise, they will go the Soviet way. अरे आदि यहाँ तो आटे प्याज और कांदा और वो क्या बोलते हैं आलू से सरकार गिर जाती है वहां पे क्या करोगे यार टैंक चढ़ाओगे उनके ऊपर कितनों के ऊपर चढ़ा लोगे टैंक एंड रिमेंबर when such a civil unrest takes place there will be a one-out leader somewhere who is not happy with zipping for whatever reasons it might be his personal ambitions or personality clash whatever you might call it he will come to lead the masses. That's what happened in the Soviet Union also. Well, they had 5 reasons to speak about, but one reason was food insecurity.
Yeah.
वो बाकी सब में जनता चुप कर देगी जब खाना नहीं मिलता तो कोई चुप नहीं करता यार. There will be some leader to come out, and if somebody will say, no, the Soviet Union had different, excuse me, ethnicities. No, even China has for that matter. Well, 80% population, 80 to 85% is Han. Then you have Thais, TAI, they have some kind of a link with Thais for that matter. Then you have Ahoms there. Ahoms were one of the rulers in Assam once upon a time. They have Mongols, they have Tibetans. If they start asking for separation after the civil unrest, it will be difficult for China to control. They will have to mend their ways. They have to supply food to their people. So I'll take you back to 1950s now. Great leap forward. Mao. He was too much impressed by Stalinist way of progress, his ideology. That my country must progress. I will start manufacturing steel. He told all farmers, vacate your land, go for mining. Go for mining. They started building clay furnaces for smelting the extracted iron ore in a hope to make steel. And what finally they got in hand? Lump of wrought iron. Nothing more than that. They never got steel those days.
Because they were doing it in houses.
Yeah, that's right. And the same thing now, China hasn't got anything of their own. If they're talking of being an industrial hub or a manufacturing economy, well, it's the outsiders who are doing it for you. You are not doing it yourself. I was talking to one of the guys here, he says, listen, for the QR, our guys are sitting on top for quality assurance. For QA, He says our guys are sitting on top. The workforce will be there, maybe there, but we finally decide whether it is a good product or not. So basically, Chinese are occupying the top post when they come down to India or to other countries. In their own country, Dutch, Japanese, all these guys are occupying the top posts. Now, late 50s, if I'm not wrong, in 59 or so, there was a famine in China. You know the three major acts of CCP, the Communist Party that time? Omission, commission, and preservation. Have you heard of these three? Omission means for 3 years they never asked for aid from outside. People are starving to death. 1/3 of China was starving. When they asked for the aid, then the top people were taking commission, bribery. Preservation. Food was preserved for the higher echelons of the Communist Party. They were getting all the lavish food, whereas the poor, what they call commoner, was starving to death. They were failed to acknowledge the importance of local food security and production. Then also, and it's almost 70 years now, or 65 years, that's whatever it might be. China's ruling elite is happy, they get what they want. Common citizen is suffering. And that's all from my side. If you have anything else to add, you can go ahead,
The
please.
No, sir, what you've actually put across is a very, very interesting set of data, which actually gives us a sort of picture with regards to its insecurities within.
Yeah.
And funnily speaking, a lot of people fail to understand that just like any other country, China has its insecurities as well, and it's got major one of them. So the water, food being one of the biggest, and I think I was reading somewhere end of last year that the Chinese have about, I think, 50% of the world's stock of wheat. A lot of people were speculating that, are they hoarding up for war? So that's something very interesting to know. And if one looks at the Chinese histories, I think 1911, when the Qing dynasty was thrown out, it was because of the factor that the Chinese people were hungry.
Yeah, that's right.
So every time that this social contract in China has been broken since history, the system has fallen.
Here's an interesting thing. One of the CCP Congress members gave a statement in it was in the South China Morning Post that we are importing rice now. We got enough. We can go. We are growing enough rice. We are self-sufficient. We are importing rice to give variety to our people. They don't eat basmati. They eat normal sticky rice for that matter.
Yeah, broken rice.
Local rice. And that's what they are importing from outside.
And also, I mean, the food security angle can also be actually reinforced, if I may, by the factor that last year, again, Xi Jinping had run this campaign called Clean Your Plate.
No, I got a quote for that. I think I forgot to mention that. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
So,
Can you go to the slides, please? Here.
yeah,
Ah,
sure.
yeah. Can you go to the slides? The last or second last slide. Yeah. One more quote I wanted to give it to you. Just go back one slide. Yeah. There's a quote from the Barry Norton in his book. The Chinese economy rightfully states that China's self-sufficiency policy is not feasible as it involves great economic costs. Every time China decides to go to be self-sufficient in one grain or crop or meat product, there will be a trade-off made. To be self-reliant in pork, they would have to increase imports of soy to feed the hogs. There is always a trade-off. And see, these statements from Xi himself are very important. Can you go to the next slide? No, back, back again. Yeah. President Xi has always emphasized the importance of self-reliance in food. He once said Chinese people should hold their rice balls firmly in their own hand with grains mainly produced by themselves. In April 2021, in CCP meeting, he declared food security as an important foundation for national security. Thereafter, he went on to say, we rely on imports for food, others can lead us around by the nose. ये हम लोग कहानी नहीं बना रहे हैं. जी ने खुद बोला है. You can well imagine his desperation when he's speaking these words. He's a desperate man.
Very, very desperate, sir.
Yeah, Aadi.
Interestingly, so this Clean Your Plate, as I was telling you, the Clean Your Plate campaign,
Yeah.
the CCP actually took out influencers. In China, there was a influencing trend where what they would do is they would get a whole lot of food and they would show you, and then they would eat one piece, and basically review the food and waste the rest. So Xi Jinping basically caught 10, 12 of these big influencers, and they were all put down. And that entire industry of being a food critic in China has gone out. As a matter of fact, he gave a diktat to all the people in China, saying that if you're 6 people going to a restaurant, order food for 5. So that tells you that, and this stuff, when it comes from the the topmost authority in China, it tells you a lot more than what you need to know, with regards to what is happening. Guys, if you have some questions, sir has done some very interesting research on this. If you do have some questions, and there are some comments and questions here, we'll go through that. But I think overall, this is an interesting aspect of the entire game of China, where we see that there are loads of vulnerabilities which are built within China. I mean, of course, on deftalks we've spoken about the geopolitical challenges. We've spoken about
my
the
only
military challenges and
ground is what when few people they try to project China as a role model country for that matter. We should copy everything from them. Do we have a food insecurity in our country? No, we don't have. And you see, when these guys go out in those countries I'm referring to, I said South America, Africa, wherever, there's something known as cash crop. They would like to grow cash crops here. Like tea, coffee, cocoa, or for example, in New Zealand, kiwi is a cash crop for that matter. Now, if you force that guy to grow his requirement, what he needs in China, and is not getting adequately paid, obviously, like they're part of the politicians or bureaucracy there, for whatever it might be. But a normal man on the street is not happy. The government might be communist oriented, but a common man is not happy.
exactly.
And when it comes to that politician's own survival, he'll drop China like a hot potato. He'll say, I don't know who you are. And it's the
Exactly.
land grabbing, debt trap, the kind of loans they make and the terms and conditions they put. He'll say, नहीं यार मेरे पास पैसा है, कहाँ से लोगे तुम मुझसे पैसा यार? Go to ICJ. ICJ on the humanitarian grounds will say, yeah, this guy has to feed his country. You have to roll over the loan for next 10 years. And from where China is going to get the money?
Angola, prime example of this.
Yeah.
They literally told all the Chinese, bye-bye, go home.
अरे यहाँ पे अपना neighboring country में देख लो यार. Is China actually, with the plans they came to Pakistan, are they actually able to grab their what you call land or airports or whatever they have mortgaged to them?
Oh yeah. Apart from that, I think the another big jhatka to the Chinese has come is in Ukraine.
Yes,
Because the
certainly.
Chinese used to own a lot, large scales. I think 10% of all arable land in Ukraine was owned and run by China. So
It's all gone.
it's all gone now.
It's all gone.
Let's
The rubble
let's get
now.
absolutely.
Yes.
So let's get into some comments and stuff.
Yeah, sure.
You're saying something, sir. Please go ahead.
I was saying that the main what you call agricultural land or arable land for China is the east coast, where they got a concrete jungle and they don't have urban agriculture concept. You tell a young boy in China to do the agriculture business, he'll never do it. His
He's probably
mama's
not
boy.
seen a farm.
तो हाथ में छाले पड़ जाएंगे उसके यार.
He's probably not seen a farm, sir.
He's not seen a farm in his life.
Hmm, hmm. Interesting.
And, I'll go beyond this line of what you call the food secret I'm talking of. This is the actual foundation of what you call biotech war. Deprive of the country of the food here. You deprive them of food, float a rumor, like I give an example of that cherries from Santiago. पैसा भी दिया, माल भी मंगवाया, और वो भी बेकार हो गया.
And when COVID was at its peaks, they were doing COVID checks to all fish and all. I've seen videos of them opening fish mouth and putting that thing inside.
No, there's a reason for that. Adi, like nothing much is known about the COVID as of today also, of this particular virus strain. You bring all your vaccines at what temperature? At sub-zero?
Yes, sir.
Pfizer is, if I'm not wrong, minus 18
Minus
or
70. Minus
minus
70, sir. Minus
minus 7,
70.
say minus 17. Now your frozen meat is coming at temperature of minus 18 degrees or minus 20 degrees. The range is from minus 14 to minus 20 degrees here for transporting it. You are actually carrying live virus on the packaging and inside the container. Here is the virus over there. This is a biotech war, subdivided into agriculture and what you call a bio weapon and a biochemical weapon, as a matter of fact.
Looking at China and the whole lot of other stuff which has come out in the past few days, it's quite possible. So, you know.
Yeah, that's all from my side. Yeah.
So Mandar says, I think the biggest weakness of the CCP is the people who behave like humans instead of cattle. The CCP does not know how to handle humans who no longer want to be cattle. That's an
Mandar, you're absolutely right.
interesting comment.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I didn't want to be a racist by,
No, sir, but this actually, his comment exposes a little larger perspective that there was something called a collective wisdom in China, in the sense everybody does what is told to be done, and that's it. Uh, we, we've had protests in China before. We've
who are the people going to work outside China? Who are they taking? They're all criminals serving a prison sentence. What do you expect from them here?
That indeed, sir. Good evening. The Chinese river water is very much polluted. Please confirm. I think you've done that.
He said it, they are very much polluted. Unconfirmed reports, I would say, because that is not from the authentic, what we call, source of data. Somebody writes something, and if you do that kind of research work, 70% is polluted, but officially, up to 20% water is unfit for consumption. That data is, I think, of 2018, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, and they don't also. I think you covered this in the middle as well. They don't have a way to store.
They don't have way to store.
They don't have a way to store. They've not been able to develop the channel system and stuff like that. Like, for example, in India, the Sabarmati project in Gujarat has taken water right to the edge, dark edges of Run of Kutch.
Absolutely. their geographical terrain is different. And remember that this side of the what you call Himalayas, if you talk of Himalayas are counted as, or rather falls in the category of new mountains. They're never called old mountains because they're relatively new when compared to the age of the earth. And they're very much prone to, if you disturb those mountains, you try to go against their nature, there will be massive, massive landslides.
Exactly. All the industries in the world and nothing to feed.
Well,
That's the
that's the
reality.
price. That's the price they are paying. That's how it goes in the communist country. He's proving to his people that his country is the most advanced country with all the latest gadgets and everything, and they're exporting a whole lot of items. Like if they export Sony TV from there, it's written over there, produce of Sony Japan, assembled in China.
That's the same case for iPhones.
Yeah.
Uh, Shocking to hear about the water issues. Is India also headed there? Are rivers also polluted with industrial effluents?
No, Dhananjay, it's not that way actually. He's my course mate only.
Uh,
See, the pollution what we are seeing here is usually in the cities like Delhi, that Jamuna polluted and all. We don't have that kind of what you call industries along the river banks where we are discharging our industrial waste. China had actually traded off. They went actually berserk with their what they call manufacturing and industrial growth. That's how the rivers got polluted in China.
their air pollutant levels have also been very high since the 60s.
Very high, and that's what the Delhi government what they call suggested when they erected that pollution arresters. I believe the towers they made what China has made. अरे यार मतलब try to understand how many air changes you can do in the atmosphere. It's something like you're going to take the air con and put it in the open and say I'm running the air conditioning. That will be effective up to a couple of meters here. And you're calling it a air pollution. I don't know what term they use for capturing the pollution, and the other side it will throw out purified air. How big a fan and how many number of fans will put in that tower, and what will the range of that? Up to 200 meters, 100 meters, maybe 50 meters for that matter. And what thereafter? The same air goes back into the pollution, comes from the other side, and you're just circulating the same air there and then in that area only.
Delhi had put these things long time ago as well, sir.
Yeah.
Did the Three Gorges Dam actually get the Earth's rotation to deviate? Yes.
Yeah,
Read
absolutely
about
right.
it somewhere.
No, you're absolutely right, because all scientists and engineers, they have said Earth will bulge at the equator more and it will get flattened at the poles. And
Yeah.
it is affecting the Earth rotation and the.
It's
You see, you
it's
have to understand one thing. I forgot what his name was.
uh Cafe Domus.
Yeah, I don't know what the actual name is. Okay, Cafe Thomas. Like, uh, you see, Earth is not an equipotential surface. You have to remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
When I say equipotential, that is gravity is not same
All over.
each point. So what you do, you get the best fit what we call ellipse. When you make it to spin, you call it like ellipsoid, and take it as an ellipsoid with certain amount of eccentricity and flattening, and you call it a spheroid. Like your WGS 84, World Geopolitics System 84 is based on certain radius of curvature for the Earth. Now, when you construct this kind of a dam, why are you taking the best fit model for the Earth, the gravity model of the Earth? Because Earth has got ups and downs, rivers, sea, and everything. So you have to establish a mean sea level. You have knocked off the entire mountain from that area, the Earth's gravity is going to get disturbed in that area. That's the reason I said this is a major fault line, three major fault lines. And as a matter of fact, I read a report, the number of earthquakes have increased in
Yeah.
that region because after the dam was built.
As a matter of fact, during last year's flood, it was about to break, so that
Yeah,
was pretty evident.
and
Uh,
Chinese are claiming it to be a nuclear blast proof. It's a different.
there were cracks on it, so even that time. We should be grateful to our common sense, so can have a certain amount of food for ourselves. Your view on
So,
it?
Raghunandan, see, the thing is that India is self-sufficient as far as food is concerned. I will just say one thing: you don't have to read economic times or big newspapers and all. The best way to know about the country's economy is count the number of boxes in and count the number of boxes out. That is the number of containers I'm saying nowadays. Container cargo, and basically like it's a jargon to
Yeah,
signify
balance.
a particular aspect. Otherwise, basically bulk cargo and other stuff also. How much of food you're importing, if you really ask me? How many times you've seen? How many refrigerated containers come to India, or how many refrigerated bulk ships comes to India for that matter? I've done almost 15 years in that field. I never seen any refrigerated what you call you know non-container with complete cargo hold vessel coming to India. Containers, yes, containers come, but containers don't carry. With containers which come
True.
to India are hardly any number of containers. They don't have that many plug points on the any berth India for that matter because we don't need it. And if we have to get something, we can get it from Africa for that matter, which is very, as a matter of fact, couple of Indian uh, industrialists have got their agriculture interest in Africa here, but they're all growing cash crop at the moment. For their, your वो हसमुख चाय वाला जो है उसका है इथोपिया में बिरला का है इथोपिया में they're growing tea over there. The
Yeah,
dals and all are being grown over there and they're getting it to India also. Only thing is that in future we have to see that in the race for being a manufacturing hub to call ourselves industrial economy, we should not compromise with our water resources and food resources.
absolutely correct, sir. No question. Sir, if China is a so-called advanced nation, then why is the agro-tech, hybrid tech, and with GM modified crop not developed? The
That's a
reality
very
is,
good question. As a matter of fact, you see, biotech subject, agriculture is a specialization in biotech that hasn't caught up in China. And what they will do with their land when their land itself has got groundwater which is coming to is what you call poison point, lead and arsenic most of the time. And how much of land there left for agriculture, you have to see that also. You can have a, well, biotech agriculture will tell you to have a maximum yield from minimum mass of land. But you can't go 1 is to 100 ratio. Yeah, there has to be a ratio of 1 is to 3, not more than that.
absolutely, only 10% of the land is suitable to grow.
I'll add on that rather. In India, unfortunately, Adi, we haven't really caught on with biotech agriculture. We need to start at the earliest
Absolutely, sir.
because
Uh,
see all this what you call the fad of organic farming and this and that. Yeah, if you really ask me, even if you genetically modified or by the use of biotech in a particular agriculture and produce for that matter, if you use it rightly with proper scientific way, it will have the same what we call calories, vitamins, proteins, what you get otherwise. Provided you don't use the banned fertilizers and the pesticides.
yeah, that is true, sir. Only 10% of China is suitable to grow food. No wonder they lease land all over the world just to grow food.
Yeah, that's what
Pretty
I said. They're doing it.
evidently brought out by you, sir.
Well,
One,
they're gonna get kicked out from there one day. Where they will go? The local farmer is not happy with them.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. They're pissed off, sir. One wonders what is the bigger bubble, BRI or the Chinese concrete jungle.
What came first, chicken or the egg? It's like this. Chinese went when Chinese planning was no doubt good planning. They wanted to rule the world, and they have a global governance. What you call they call that they thought they are the most superior race. So they went everywhere and bought the land. And if you look at their BRI route, that's why they wanted to have BRI. Now look at it, Africa, the East Africa coast to Gwadar, Baluchistan, and up the CPEC, and they go to China straight away. How much time they save? Going around Sri Lanka, if they have to take it by sea, Bay of Bengal, transit Bay of Bengal, enter Malacca Strait, Singapore Strait, then up north, before past Philippines, enter your South China Sea, and then go up under Chinese ports. Whatever food you're carrying will get spoiled here. That's why that food is not coming from South America to China, actually, if you really ask me, except for the food which can sustain more than, I would say, 45 days, because the fast moving vessel speed will also take at least 30 to 35 days of voyage to China here, from South America.
Indeed, sir.
And then on arrival, it should be consumed within a week or 10 days. That's all.
How do you distribute it to such a large nation is besides me.
Now, you got to have a very good, what we call, movement system, uninterrupted.
Yeah. Goods movement, Chinese don't have that kind of an edge. It's pretty bad, actually. Ask what what is your opinion on Peter Zehan's prediction on the collapse of China's demographic? It's
Yeah, I
happening.
don't know about it, but as I said, I'm sure if they don't change their ways, they're going to collapse.
Yeah, the
Well,
demographic is happening. As a matter of fact, their population is degrown. This is the first year which
yeah.
has come across. I wonder how many people they've lost through COVID. So that's something that's going to be interesting. How
Once earlier, with they had four people earning to spawn retired. The Chinese don't.
Sir,
Yeah.
your voice is getting
Can you hear
cut
me?
off. I think it's yeah. I think it's back. I think it's back. Perfect. You got cut off in the middle.
Yeah.
I think it's back. Right. How to
I think Chinese
differentiate
are.
from fake Chinese? Ah, sir, वो होता रहता है. How to differentiate between fake Chinese data and factual data?
You see, the
That
only
is the trick.
two things I'll talk about Chinese over here. The only thing straight about Chinese is the hair on the head. First, second, in China, the only truth is the newspaper.
I think your voice is getting cut off. So can you hear me?
The other data, for example, is having a problem. You,
Okay, can you hear me, sir? I think the picture kind of
just
stabilized.
waiting for Aadi. You can
Yeah,
see
yeah.
me and hear me otherwise.
All right. Now I think we can hear you. Right. So you were saying something, sir. Oh, okay, guys. I think he's just dropped off. Let me see if I can get him back. But before he does come back, guys, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. I have to say this all the time. Your likes are really helping, and please do continue that. It's a small little touch on that thumbs up button below the video. It's very, very important for Dev Talks to reach higher milestones and to reach a larger audience. We are actually doing very, very interesting, serious discussions without rhetoric. Ah,
I'm
sir
back.
is back. So I was just requesting everybody to kind of like the video and
Yeah,
my usual dialogue.
that's right. I don't know. Somebody's asking a question. He said the fake and the actual data.
Yeah.
I just gave one two-liners that matter. Now coming back to the facts, you will never get a correct data from China. For example, even the imports they are having, how do they get data what they've imported here? It's their statistics what they've imported. unreliable. They will never admit. So what you do, you see the export data, that is the countries which are exporting to China. So that also becomes slightly difficult to get because shipping is slightly a different kind of a business. At times you load from a particular port and your charter or the owner might say, upon completion, after drop of pilot, head in general direction, westerly direction. So when you're leaving the port and you got to take an outward clearance, what we do is we write that next port of call, not yet decided, not yet informed. So that's how we get the port clearance, and that's a done thing actually. Once you're out of his port limits, then he has no what you call control over you. Maybe if a particular country has got an international search and rescue participation, few countries have made it mandatory and few countries have made it optional. So you keep sending reports at designated hours about your position and your course and speed and the ETA to next port of call. If you're not doing that also, and have been informed after leaving the port limits that you head to China, how do you get the data from that particular country that where I've taken the cargo? So that's why I said this data is on the lower side. It's not on the higher side.
Apart from that, one of the easiest ways of actually trying to figure out what the Chinese are doing is just by listening to them. And that's what all of us do when we want to read Chinese. They speak a lot.
Yeah.
And they speak in the middle of stuff. So you got to read between the lines and then connect the dots with actually what is happening on the ground. And you'll realize there is something to it.
Yeah.
And then keep a track of that story, and then something majors come out in the forward. And that's how a lot of Chinese analysts and a lot of China watchers would actually do it. So, sir.
Another way of intelligence gathering is like I know everybody does it and they must be doing it also. There is something known as AIS, Auto Identification System. It's a VHF, what we call system, but at sea you get ranges up to at times you have picked out 80 miles also, 100 miles or nautical miles also, but usually 25 to 30 nautical miles you get the range. Like your ship's name, ship's what you call MMSI number, all the ship details are there, which are required for international recognition purpose. And there you have to feed in what's the type of what you call cargo you're carrying, what is your draft of the vessel, what is the next port of call, what is the ETA. Like you switch it off only at the captain's discretion if it's passing through a pirate infested area. Then we switch it off completely. Otherwise, you're supposed to keep it on. So you can have an intelligence vessel or fishing trawler who has got a simple AIS on and receiving all the data sitting over there. Yeah. Which ship is going where, how much cargo is carrying, with what next port of call is there, what is the available depth over there. You can make out by the number of ships and the kind of draft they're going over there. So data is assimilated from all these sources, and that's how it is collected and published by certain what you call authorities, organizations. But again, I will say it's on the lower side. Chinese imports are higher as compared to the data value.
Last couple of questions, sir. Already we are seeing the effect of the dams downstream in riparian regions of the northeast India, especially in Arunachal and Assam.
That's my daughter-in-law from USA.
We are seeing that.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
We are seeing that. There is no question about that, sir. That's an interesting observation. And let's go to the next one. Are we not going the same way to become a manufacturing hub? And is India a soft target of attack to divert as compared to other countries?
Naveen, I said a couple of minutes ago that we should not compromise our food security and the water pollution. I would say West used China. हमारे यहाँ तो pollution नहीं है, तुम कर लो अपना pollution ही. I've got a clear blue sky Thank you very much. I've got tap water to drink. You drink bottled water and pay the cost for
And recycle it if you can.
that. That is your waste, not my waste.
And on that note, sir, I think this is an interesting comment to close the show. Big trouble for Winnie the Pooh. I agree with you absolutely. Sir, thank you so much. This has been an enlightening episode where we've actually discussed some hatke cheezein with regards to food and water, which are, I think, the basics of life. We've talked about the civil contract or the social contract, as it's known in China, between the citizens and the government, where each other has given a certain amount of freedom to the other to take decisions for the other.
Mm. So,
And when these kind of little balances will be touched upon, as sir has said, where food security and water and all these basics would come into picture, there's going to be big trouble. And we've actually seen some trouble coming and hitting China last end of last year with these sporadic protests all around the country, which gave us a clear hint that the Chinese people aren't unaware of what is happening. On that note, sir, thank you so much. It's been nice. It's been wonderful
thank you
talking to
so
you
much.
and learning from you.
Honor was all mine. And basically, if you ask me, I wanted to bring this topic in front of the public because, as you know, General Rajiv sir says, Bharatiyata, Mera Bharat.
Absolutely.
Because we have to know that the kind of rumors are floated around and the narratives are being created. Yeah, I've done my time. Like, no, I'm retired now. The new generation should not suffer because of false narratives. We should live a happy Bharat for them.
Absolutely, sir. No, कोई शक नहीं उस मामले में. And with whatever little effort that we can put in, we must, and we 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 are going to do that. Thanks so much, sir,
And
for joining up. And guys, please, before I sign off, please like this video. Check your subscriptions, hit the bell icon if you've not subscribed. You can actually help out the DevTalks efforts by clicking on scanning this right here for any contributions, or you can become members or send us super stickers or super chats. Don't forget to visit my website www.thedevtalks.com. Till next time, sir. Jai Hind.
Giant. And next time maybe we'll come up on pharma. All the West is fooling the entire world.
Yes, sir.
So okay. Thanks, yeah. Good night.
Good night.
You know.